All right, we are live. What is going on, my family in the house? We got Rue, we got Max, we got Jesse in the house dropping that alpha. What's going on, guys? How's your day going?
Chill, chill. I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
Yeah, it's awesome here. Really nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it, Rob.
Absolutely, brother.
Yeah, so glad to be back as well. We have been kind of tinkering with the idea of sharing Jesse over Apex Crypto Consulting NFA to the community. Uh, Obviously, Rue and I have shared a lot of his work before on our channels, and so it's quite the honor to have him grace us on this collaboration. This research ecosystem that we got here, which is really really cool. So very excited about this. But yeah, glad to see you again, Rob, Rue, obviously Jesse, and thank you so much, you guys who are tuned in this evening. It really means a lot to all of us.
Amen, brother. Yes, we are multiplying. We are multiplying. So yeah, we took about we missed. Did we miss 1 week or 2 weeks? Just one Thursday, right?
Two,
I
two.
think we missed two. Yeah.
Damn, that's Rue's
Yeah.
fault. So
Wow.
That's how it goes, man. I don't know. Maybe next time I'll do better. I don't know.
oh man, Max. So what do you got for us today, brother?
Well, I have a little something, and then of course, obviously, I want to first do this before I jump into what I have. So, um, I thought I would prepare this. So, for one, the guy in the lower left-hand corner is obviously Jesse over Apex Crypto Consulting, sharing his page up here. Rob is going to pull it up here in just a moment. So, without further ado, I mean, here's a channel. He's been killing it. He's been around for 5 months. But if anything, Jesse, speak for it yourself. We do a lot of collabs, but you mainly cover obviously XRP, QNT. Some of the recent things we covered, obviously, is we feel that we have 100% proof with actual documentation that XRP, yes, XRP is the unified ledger, and that Quant with QNT is that universal interoperability layer. If you can, Jesse, just share a little bit of background about this. I'll give you guys a quick update on obviously the digital euro, Quant's role with this new thing called QuantNet, because at the end of the day, guys, you're not just investing into a coin with XRP. You're not just investing into a token with QNT. You're literally investing into the next internet, the new version of the internet. Google was the internet of information. Ripple is the internet of value. Quant is the internet of trust. And that in itself is so huge because never before in history have we captured the value of internet, of the internet. So by all means, take it away, Jesse. This is your channel, sir.
I'm taking over. My goodness, I'm taking you guys hostage. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I just started my channel about 5.5 months ago. Been very very blessed. It's growing very fast. I spent numerous years researching XRP. I mean, maybe 5 to 10 hours per day on average, over 8 years almost. So it's like maybe 15 to 20,000 hours researching utility, XRP, QNT, where this is going. Prior to that, I had been researching the central banking system, the intelligence agencies, numerous things, which helped me to tie everything together. I have two playlists here that I really recommend people checking out. My two playlists are on QNT and XRP. In my videos, I prove that the unified ledger, which used to be called the regulated internet of value, but they changed the name. They don't want to call it the regulated internet of value anymore because everybody knows that's Ripple. But the unified ledger, shared ledger, regulated liability network, regulated settlement network, regulated internet of value. It's all the XRP ledger. So Quant's role here, there was a big misconception with the QNT community that Quant is the unified ledger. Quant is not the unified ledger. Quant provides the programmability, interoperability, and the custom APIs for the unified ledger, also known as the shared ledger. But Quant is not the unified ledger, so I clear that up in my videos. I show the relationship between Ripple and XRP, which goes right back to the SDR, special drawing rights of the IMF. If you research XRP, you'll see that they're doing exactly what the IMF tried to do in 1968, but they were not successful because it did not get global adoption and didn't get the use cases needed to have that global liquidity. So I go pretty deep. Every time I talk about the IMF and Ripple, I get really nervous about what I expose there. But really, really nervous, and really nervous. Like unbelievable. I post a video and then sometimes I want to delete it. I'm like, don't sleep for 3 days. But that's my channel, guys. Thank you so much for having me. You want to check out my stuff. And I'm really, really honored to be here with these fine people, and really appreciate it. God bless you all.
Amen, brother. Amen. Actually,
Well,
there's a question here. I was gonna feel.
sure.
I want to field to Jesse in the chat, actually, because I know he loves his XRP and stuff. So Mirdid asks, "What do you guys think about David Schwartz leaving XRP?" Thoughts?
Excuse me. Yeah. So I didn't even look at, because I think he's just changing positions. If I'm not mistaken, Max, just tell me. I'm not worried about XRP.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
go ahead,
not
Max.
FUD. Shout out to a guy who will be eventually be doing a collaboration with. A lot of you guys know who he is. It's Molt Money. Molt did an excellent job yesterday on his video explaining specifically that. So it's not FUD at all. For one, it's more or less like David Schwartz feels as though he has met his technical obligations as the chief technical officer, CTO over at Ripple. You got to keep in mind, I mean, he's been at it for literally over 42 some odd years, give or take. That is quite the accomplishment. We're talking about, again, like what Jesse and I have covered on our channels. This predates The Economist magazine, and then his patents, roughly 1989, updated patents in 1991. And at that time, it's not Bitcoin, right, at all, but it's a distributed ledger technology patents that he had. So this whole thing has been in the echo chamber for many decades, 4+ decades. So I look at, think about that for a second. If he is now switching from his role as a CTO, chief technological officer, right, technology officer, excuse me, to this other role, which I'll get to in a bit, well, wouldn't that be like, yeah,
no, it's done.
I'm done. Yeah, it's done.
Yeah.
And that's incredibly bullish, because we're going to finally see, in my opinion, the flip of that switch. And it has to be with ISO 222, because that's
But Max, I wanted to
Right.
elaborate on that. Sorry, I just want to ask you, what
go
position is
ahead.
he going? What position is he going to? That's what I want to
That
ask.
part has not been disclosed from what I
Okay,
gathered,
okay,
but
okay.
Chris Larson did invite him to have a leadership role. So I think he's going to be up there, like with
Okay.
Brad Garlinghouse, obviously Chris Larson, and so on. He is not retiring from Ripple, just a
Okay.
disclaimer,
Perfect. Yeah.
but he has removed himself from the position of
Yeah.
that CTO, and then there will be an announcement later on who that will be. So again, think about that. I mean, why would you want to leave from that? Because you're done.
They're done.
Right?
You're done.
You're done.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
that's the case, this is another disclaimer. Jesse and I covered this recently, and I also did a few deep dives, just real quick. In documentation, if you go to some of these guys' X channels and so on, it would originally say, especially Brad Garlinghouse, under his title, instead of saying CEO of Ripple, creating the Internet of Value or building the Internet of Value. And we went from creating the Internet of Value to building the Internet of Value. Now he's wiped that. If you go to Monica Long's X and see what she has on her title, it says Monica Long, president of Ripple, and it says enabling or integrating the Internet of Value. So for one, that's a clue. It's already been built. And now David Schwartz leaves because it's already built. It's done. Now let's flip on that switch.
Yeah, so also just I want to give an answer because they're asking me. So yeah, it doesn't change anything. I'm not worried. Even honestly, like Ripple is so far ahead. Like they're so way ahead that most people, like I think even 95% of the XRP community, like 99% of the community doesn't even realize how big Ripple is and how long this has been planned from the central bankers, from the IMF, the reason for it. We can almost go way back to the Bancor being created in 1945, where they proposed the Bancor at the Bretton Woods Agreement, but instead of creating the Bancor, they went with the US dollar as a global reserve currency. And then we see the IMF creating the SDR that was supposed to be a supplementary reserve currency to help supplement the US dollar, but they were not successful because, again, they only gave it to central banks. And because they only gave it to central banks, it did not gain all those use cases and liquidity needed for it to be successful. So they failed. And now we see see them redoing exactly what they tried to do. It's a long story, but yeah, David Schwartz, you know, it doesn't matter where he goes, what happens. Ripple is not going anywhere. And this has been planned so long, and the powers that be cannot afford to fail because they need a global liquidity solution to fix the global liquidity crisis and many, many other things that they're doing with Ripple, including fixing the Triffin's dilemma. But yeah, I'm not worried about at all. No matter where he goes, how he goes, and when he goes, I'm not concerned even 0.00001%. That's my
Yeah,
short.
I just wanted to get that out there because you know how misinformation and people who hate XRP can take something like that and just create something that's completely manufactured, right? So I wanted to make sure that was clear.
Appreciate it.
So Max, you got some quant stuff you wanted to get into, eh, brother?
Well, I do, but again, Rue, you know, I think you wanted to go first, buddy.
Either way, I'm cool.
Are you
Do
sure?
you really want to go? What do you got for us, Rue? What do you got for me?
Well, just a few things. Just a few things. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
Greenhorn.
I know, bro. Like it's crazy over here. So where's it at here?
We need to run commercial ads while Rue figures out.
I swear I had it up. So let's just start with the Swift thing. Because I'll be interested to see, since we started with XRP, I'll be interested to see how Jesse feels about this. And I know we talked about it a little bit backstage. But here we had Swift to add a blockchain-based ledger to its infrastructure stack, and groundbreaking move to accelerate and scale benefits of digital finance across more than 200 countries and territories worldwide. This announcement is September 29th, 2025. And it says here, basically, Swift will work with Consensus, which we know they're the Ethereum people, on a conceptual prototype of the ledger, which will leverage Swift's unmatched resiliency, security, and scalability to facilitate transactions using any form of regulated tokenized value. Now, if you go down, you'll see all the different banks that they're working with. And I've seen already people are taking this and stretching it into, well, Swift's not choosing Ripple. They're choosing Consensus. They're choosing Ethereum. They're not going to use Ripple now. And, you know, from my view of it, it's very clear that they're still going to use Ripple. You know, all these, like a lot of these banks are directly tied into Ripple, like Mizuho, like BNY, like Santander, like Bank of America, and others like Deutsche Bank. So to me, I'm not worried, but I'd love to have Jesse's opinion on it, so my people can get another person's opinion on it other than myself.
Oh my goodness! So I'm gonna try to make it less than 4 hours, okay? Because I could go on a rant here like crazy. So first thing people need to understand is, in order to be a bridge asset, when you want to settle transactions going from one type of asset to another, you need a bridge asset for that. You need a purposely built bridge asset that can provide that global liquidity. There's only Stellar and Ripple that do that, where you can go from one asset. Let's say you go from the US dollar to the XRP to the yen, from the yen to the XRP to maybe the peso, or maybe you want to settle some real estate tokens. Okay, so tokenized real estate. You go from tokenized real estate to the US dollar, to the XRP to the US dollar. You need a purposely built bridge asset for that. And so there's so much to discuss here. So I'm going to probably have to take about 5-10 minutes here. I do apologize.
Sure.
So basically, no other blockchain to do that. In order to be a purposely built bridge asset, okay, you need the liquidity that RippleNet has. You need the XRP ledger and the interledger protocol. You need the decentralized exchange that XRP ledger has built into the XRP ledger. You need the advanced AMM, automated market makers, that Ripple has, because that's going to play a huge role as well. Ripple has a private CBDC platform as well that central banks are building on. Okay, so you need all of these things. You cannot go from US dollar to Ethereum to tokenized real estate. That's not the internet value, because there's no liquidity. So Ethereum, Solana, any of these, anything, you can call it Linea, you can call it whatever. It's not purposely built to be a bridge asset. So all of these things is just deception. Okay, so they're not going to be bridging, going from any type of asset to any other type of asset using Ethereum. It's not purposely built for that. It's not going to happen. The other thing too, we know that Swift has been working with Ripple for years. The whole shenanigan between Ripple and Swift, that's all theater. You know, give him an award, give him 10 Oscars. This is
Yeah.
all theater. Okay, they all knew long time ago that Swift was going to connect to Ripple. I forget the name of the guy, but he was at Swift for 20 years. Now he's with a bank, Haven something. I forget. I show all of that on my my YouTube channel. Okay, so basically this guy was at Ripple for 20 years. He used to be a manager. Sorry, he was at Swift. He used to be a manager at Swift for 20 years. He's talking and he's saying, you know, Swift runs through my blood. I've been with them for 20 years. And he starts talking how great Ripple is, talks about Ripple, you know, 45 minutes straight in this interview, how the bank that he now works with can use Ripple, and Swift, how Swift is going to run on Ripple, and how Swift can settle with XRP when it's needed. But the thing is here, it's always needed. That's what they don't tell you, because you need that global liquidity. Anytime you want to go from any type of asset, they say cross-border because it makes it sound smaller than it is, but it's not cross-border. What they're doing is really cross-asset, going from any type of asset to any other type of asset. And you need that. That's the internet of value. And so, for example, so that's the other thing too, okay, guys? Like Ripple has many different, Swift has many different ways that they can connect into Ripple. They do it with third-party apps. They're doing it with CLS. They're doing it with many different third parties. So Swift is connecting to Ripple to settle transactions because Ripple is the only network that has the liquidity. It's a big deception in many of the communities where they think like, oh no, Swift can just work with these guys or this blockchain and they can automatically replace XRP. It's not going to happen because XRP. So if you think about Brad Garlinghouse 7 years ago in 2018 or 2019, he admitted how they had 200 banks connected to RippleNet. And by the way, guys, RippleNet has an AML compliant, anti-money laundering compliant. It's KYC compliant. Plus, it has a global rule book that all the banks sign up to that they agree to the terms. Okay, so the whole time Ripple was being sued in this bogus lawsuit, what I believe is complete fake lawsuit, they were fully compliant. RippleNet, that all the banks are connecting to, was fully compliant globally. It met the global standards for banking transfers globally. Okay, and keep in mind that we see emails coming from Ryan Fugger talking about Ripple in 2004. They're literally starting Ripple the same year the ISO 20022 is created. Because you need the ISO, that's a whole other rabbit hole. But let me go step back here. So in 2018, 2019, Brad Garlinghouse said we have 200 banks connected to RippleNet and we're connecting 2 banks per week. Then we're connecting 3 banks per week. I think from what I remember, he said we were connecting 6 banks per week now. Some people are saying that he said 2. For me, I remember him saying 6 banks per week, but maybe I'm mistaken. So let's be conservative and let's say 2 banks per week. At 2 banks per week in 2018, that's 100 banks per year. They already had 200. That's 7 years ago. Right there alone, that's 900 banks. But that's not counting CLS and all the different third-party applications and third-party payment networks that they're integrating into RippleNet with literally just click and connect and go. So individually, bank per bank, they would have connected right now 900 banks if it was 2 banks per week, like someone is saying. I remember him saying 6 banks per week, which would be 2,400 banks. So, like, the idea that Swift is not going to use Ripple, there is no other solution. You have Stellar that's going to be peer-to-peer, and small, medium enterprises are main focus, and there's a lot of other stuff too. So Stellar can do cross-border for sure, and Stellar is amazing. But in generally, for me, like the bulk of the internet value is the XRP ledger. And in my videos, oh, actually, I have the BIS, the head of technology for the BIS, on video saying if we have the unified ledger. So first of all, actually what he says, this is the head of the BIS. This is central banks for all central banks, the Bank for International Settlements. He's head of technology there. And he's talking about how, you know, the corresponding banking that Ripple replaces, right? It's a problem because it's kind of a mess and clunky and all this stuff. But he says if we have the unified ledger, you know, we can replace Swift. We can replace the corresponding banking. So he's talking about how the unified ledger replaces Swift. And in my videos, I prove from documents and from their own words in their mouth that the unified ledger, like I said, the shared ledger, regulated liability network, it's all the XRP ledger. So the idea that Swift is going to settle cross-asset with anything else but Ripple or Stellar is just deception, guys. Do not be deceived. They are doing everything physically possible to get you to fumble your XRP. So I will stop there right now, but just keep in mind they've done everything physically possible for people not to know that the XRP ledger was the they gave it 6-7 different names, first of all. And in the bottom line, you cannot, and even if they're using Ethereum, I'll add one more thing. Even if Swift is using Ethereum, it's quite possible that they're using Ethereum for something, because the reason Quant Overledger was built is that with Quant, you can do what are called multi-chain applications. So you're picking the best features of each blockchain and building an MDApp. So it's possible that Swift is building a multi-chain application with Quant, where they're using Ethereum for the smart contract, using XRP Ledger for settlement, using Consensus for something else, and so on and so forth. So they could be using Ethereum for something, but I can promise you this: it is not for liquidity, it's not for global liquidity, and it's not for cross-asset, cross-chain. It's for cross-border or cross-asset. It's not. They're not using Ethereum for that at all. And this whole shenanigan of Linea, call it whatever you want, is not replacing XRP. Okay, Swift has to use XRP for global settlement. That's the bottom line, and I will put my life on that one.
No, I love that. That's very clear, very definitive, and I would say to people also, definitely check out Max's Twitter, where Jesse and Smoke and Max go over this banned video. It makes it really clear to you guys in like 30 minutes why XRP is like almost infinite liquidity. It is infinite liquidity.
Yeah, sorry, I want to add one quick thing. I do apologize.
Yep.
So on my playlist on my YouTube, if you go under my playlist, there's a unified ledger playlist. I think the first video is one of the most important ones. First 2 or 3 videos, I show proof that all of this is the XRP ledger. Sorry, just wanted to add that.
No, please.
Go ahead, please. Sorry, Will.
So now just to kind of segue into Zebek, would love your opinion on that. So a member of the community, Ghost, who's really out there with Zebek, he was on like the first Zebek Spaces in which they brought up a member of the community. He has his own Zebek community on X, and he came out with this news where he says, "Oh my effing God, Swift!" Like, so did they basically say they're just partnered with Swift? And Sam Tapalia, the founder of Zebek, basically liked it. And I'm not sure if you've been looking at Zebek at all, but Zebek basically the kind of thought of what Zebek's role and purpose will be with Ripple is that they're streaming payments. There's a lot of connections of Zebek with Ripple, and that Lightspeed Ventures, which is a Ripple partner investor, they're also an investor in Zebek, and Circle investor Jim Breyer, he's also an investor in Zebek. So there's a lot of connections with Zebek and Circle. So there's a lot of reasons to believe that Zebek will be used for streaming payments. And now they've been teasing us with this NBA stuff as if they're going to enter sports betting. And my thought is that Zebek and Zebek's role, along with the payroll and being a kind of a crypto on and off ramp with the Zebek cards, is that they're going to do microtransactions and do sports betting. Now, a lot of things that people neglect to realize is that XRP is deflationary. So this would allow Zebek to kind of step in the role of sports betting, where like there's going to be tons and tons of derivative bets, and you wouldn't want to use necessarily XRP to deflate that, but you could use Zebek in that purpose. Let me share one thing with that.
Didn't Simon also say that they are expecting to announce the release of some sort of a product in collaboration with Ripple this fall?
He did, and he's yet to say what it is. And Simon's done multiple spaces with Uphold, one with Dr. Martin Heisbeck, one with Uphold's like other CEO guy who's also, his first name is Simon. So it's very clear that Zebek has connections with Ripple. They also have connections with Stellar. So one of the things I want to share with you, or well, let's show the commercial that they have right quick about the NBA. I won't. Well, I guess we can play the whole commercial because we're not really going to advertise this, so it won't matter if their music is
They won't get hit with the copyright.
right. So let me go over there.
Yeah, I have no idea if unlisted videos get hit with copyright or not.
No.
So here we go. I'll just play it here.
You can feel it. The pulse of progress. The beat of a new system. Money that moves with the same energy as the game. No more waiting. Just pure, constant momentum. A flow powered by Zebak. Secured by Uphold. This is a stadium takeover. The game. You can feel it.
Okay, so
The pulse of
that's there. And then if I bring up a couple things here really quickly about Zebek and their investors. So can you guys see the investors here?
Yes, sir.
So you can see here Coinbase Ventures, Solana Ventures, but here Lightspeed Ventures, and we know Lightspeed Ventures, they're an investor in XRP as well. But if we go down Brayer Capital, this guy he was an initial investor in Circle like 2 or 3 times. He invested in Circle. And, he also has ties to
Blackstone.
Epic Games, Blackstone, Marvel. All of those are his investments. But we see also exchanges that are connected into Zebek here with Solana, or I'm sorry, Gemini and Coinbase. And if you go to their website, you see Binance as well and OKX. There we go, OKX Ventures. So it seems clear to me that they're going to do something with the exchanges and something with like micro payments. And if I can stop sharing and share my whole screen, I want to show you something that someone sent me that AI gave them. Let me stop that and then share my whole screen. Okay, so let me hide that. And let me go to the beginning. So basically, they were trying to say, XRP Ripple, which we kind of got into here, is institutional settlement, derivatives, cross-border utility, and the Zebek is payroll, subscriptions, point of sale, gig economy payouts, and billions of tiny microtransactions per second. And if we get into kind of like the niche of them, they would be the everyday layer, be the layer that every daily human is interacting with, like money. And again, remember, like, isn't that Stellar? But they're also partnered with Stellar. Payroll, NBA, NHL players paid by the second, staff paid instantly. Uber drivers get paid real time, no end of week delay. Streaming services charge per minute watched. Coffee shop payment settles instantly to owner's account. Micro bets and in-game purchases happen live. So if we get into just the betting part, and this is why you couldn't necessarily say just like straight XRP for this. So an NBA game example, fans watching live globally, 50 million. Average micro bets per fan per game, 20. Bet size $1. And they could do an actual cent per cent bet, just like an actual cent bet, and that would be lucrative to them because fees are like very, very, very minimal. So if you take a bet size of $1, 50 million fans, 20 bets, that's $1 billion in bets just for a game, right? And that's just one game. Now, if we look at some of the things like how this would be better than FanDuel, speed, seconds, real time, global reach, limited to licensed states and countries. Well, this one, like Jesse was saying, this will be borderless with the stable coins. So it's instead of it being cross, like border, like Jesse was saying, be cross asset. You could just, it wouldn't be limited to just the state's licenses. A guy over in like freaking, New Zealand can bet with stable coins on a freaking American football game. So transaction volumes, thousands per second, billions per second possible. Fees, high. Backspace fixed costs near zero, dynamic. That's why a cent bet can still be lucrative for them. Transparency, closed database, fully auditable on chain. Innovation potential, static, legacy rails, adaptive, composable architecture. And then here, why ZBET can do what FanDuel can't. Real-time payout, no ACH delays, instant on-chain streams, global compliance, regional silos, slow scaling, designed from the ground up to be cross-border, like Jesse said, cross-asset, true micro-betting, fees too high, not viable, profitable even at a cent bet size, partnership depth, leagues only, no payment rails, MasterCard uphold leagues are integrated, expansion into other markets, just sports. In this case, payroll, gig economy, subscriptions, esports, and like Jesse says, is connecting everything. So imagine like you could use your 401k now, since it's connected to ADP and different softwares like Assure, which me and Max went over the whole Assure partnership. Like now you could use your 401k to do sports betting if you wanted to, because it's just another real world asset that's on the ledger that you have access to, because they already know who you are through KYC and AMA. So you could use any liquidity you have, including your future earnings, as like to bet with if you wanted to. So just a kind of high level overview of Zebek, and to kind of pound home the kind of sports betting microtransactions thing. I know I'm kind of hitting you with this, Jesse, and on the fly, but I don't know if you want to give some comments on just, off the fly. What do you think about it?
Yeah, you can hit me on the fly. I guess I'm not the expert on Zebek, unfortunately. I really need to start digging into Zebek. I'm almost ashamed to admit that, but you saw how it was talking about streaming payments, right? Micropayments, streaming, everything it talks there. Even it said fiat bridges. I'm just looking at my notes. It said borderless with fiat bridges. So it's something that bridges fiats. This is what Ripple does. So I just know that everything it's describing is what the Interledger protocol and XRP does. Because the whole thing of streaming payments is the fact that you can put these tiny little micropayments in little packets on the Interledger protocol, because the Interledger protocol moves these little packets of value. The whole idea of streaming payments and doing these microtransactions, paying live stream, you're getting paid as you're streaming. That whole concept and idea came from the Interledger protocol. So I'm not sure. Like, to me, they're either using Stellar or XRP there somehow, especially when they're going cross asset. Again, because it comes back to the point that I said earlier. You can't, in order to go cross asset, because I was just looking at Zebek real quick here, and I know it's kind of running, I think, on different chains. But if you want to go cross asset, you have to use XRP Ledger or Stellar. That's the bottom line. So again, like everything it was listing there describes the Interledger protocol and XRP. So I don't know. But
yes, I will help you. Okay, because Jesse
do.
mentioned Interledger protocol. This is a document that we've shared a lot lately. Robbie, if you could just approve the shared document. This is an actual physical document. If you could full screen this, Jesse, I'll highlight what you need. We did this just literally the other day. So Jesse just mentioned Interledger protocol. Take it away.
Excuse me, just one second. Yeah, so basically, this is a lot of people in the XRP community have seen this document. Not everybody breaks it up though. So this document came from the Hyperledger Foundation years ago. It's now called the Decentralized Trust. every single corporation, fintech, major central banks, commercial banks, they're all involved in the decentralized trust, which again used to be called the Hyperledger Foundation. In this 14-page document or so, 14 pages or so, it talked about building the Internet of Value. And this came out like 7-8 years ago. And it laid out in 14 pages roughly how they were going to build the Internet of Value. And it showed how they originally built the Internet of Information and how now they were going to follow kind of the same procedures in general. They were going to build the Internet of Value. And it talks on the top here, if you see on the left-hand side, you see RTGS system, real-time gross settlement systems. Below that is all your central banks. Okay, that's all your central banks here. And behind them is the local payments. So this is like local payment companies and commercial banks, for example. Okay, so the payment networks, SEPA, ACH, so on and so forth. But back to the RTGS system, this is the real-time gross settlement systems that every central bank in the world uses. Okay, so you see how they're all connected to the XRP ledger via the interledger protocol, ILP, right? And so above the XRP ledger, you see the global RTGS. So the central banks have their RTGS systems, which all of the commercial banks and local credit unions and everything and payment companies, payment networks are connected to in that country. That's the real-time gross settlement. But here it's talking about XRP being the global RTGS. So we see that the XRP ledger is the RTGS for all the central banks. It's the global RTGS. And at the top on the right-hand side, it says the global RTGS, which is the XRP ledger. We can clearly see that on the diagram. Okay, the global RTGS will remove friction, cost, and risk from cross-currency transactions. Technically, you could say cross-asset. Okay, so and then you notice how this is timeline between 2020 and 2025. You see that on top you have CB and LP. That stands for corresponding banks and liquidity providers. Okay, and then so you see they're all holding XRP tokens by 2025. Now, because you see the Internet of Value maturing by that time. Now, way at the bottom on the right-hand side, you have the last paragraph, and it says the Interledger Protocol will enable financial institutions and central banks to make their existing infrastructure and processes interoperable with other currencies, asset classes, and the XRP ledger, comma. Now it's going to describe what the XRP ledger is. It says, and the XRP ledger, comma, which is the global liquidity marketplace. So the XRP ledger is a global liquidity marketplace. And what this means is if you want to go from any type of asset to another type of asset, you're trying to find something liquid, you're trying to find some liquidity, the XRP ledger is that global liquidity layer. Because on the XRP ledger, because it has a decentralized exchange and all these different features it has, what happens is anything that's liquid to XRP is automatically liquid to any other asset that's liquid to XRP. So, and with the AMM, it's a long story, but you see here it describes the XRP ledger as being the global liquidity marketplace and the global decentralized RTGS system. So this is right here proving that the XRP ledger is the RTGS system for all of the central banks. Now, some naysayers will come and say, well, this is an old document, this is obsolete. My friends, the fact that it's old doesn't make it obsolete. The fact that it's old proves that this has been planned for a very long time. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the passion. Really, I think sometimes I might sound a bit arrogant, but to me,
no, not at all.
The idea that just because a document is, is 3 years old or 4 years old makes it like obsolete. No, please.
I got someone today telling me, "Oh, this news is old. It's 2 days old." I'm like, "You're."
Some people you can't help. Some people you can't help, right? Like, there's a saying, you can bring a horse to the water, but you can't bring it to drink. And I said to Max, I said, my goodness, sometimes we have the horse's head underneath the water, and it's still not drinking. I mean, you better drink because you're going to drown. Like your head's underneath the water. So, but anyway, sorry for the passion there and the conviction. But so this is what they've been building, right? And again, it's because the XRP ledger is built on the Interledger protocol. It has decentral. It's very, very advanced. And come on, think about it. David Schwartz was the chief technical officer for for Ripple, used to be, right? He's moving on right now, changing positions, whatever. I mean, he's holding literally the Bitcoin patent. You can Google search Bitcoin patent David Schwartz, and you'll find a patent 1989 that was awarded to him on distributed computer systems. And at the time, he was working for the most powerful 3-letter agency in the world. It starts with an N, finishes with an A. I'll just say it. It's the NSA. Okay, he was working for that organization when he was awarded this patent. And a few years later, we see other documents coming out. One other document coming from the same agency, the 3-letter agency, coming from them is called Cryptography: How to Create a Mint. So the idea that the whole cryptography, the creation of blockchain and Bitcoin started way before we got the Nakamoto paper. And I'll drop a bomb here. In my opinion, the Nakamoto story was just so people would embrace the idea of digitization. They gave us the Nakamoto story for us to embrace blockchain and digitization, because once you go into blockchain, unfortunately, it's a bit technically opposite of what the government told us, the Nakamoto story told us, because once you're on a blockchain, the government can see every transaction forever going back. As soon as they know your wallet ID, like if you touch a blockchain, if you touch an exchange, because the exchange is regulated and the exchange knows your address, they know your identity of that address, for example, and especially when we have digital ID and that's going to move on the blockchain and so on. I mean, it's opposite of what we've been told. Like the idea that now that we can go on blockchain and we're going to be hiding from the government, it's actually the opposite, in my opinion. But anyways, long story short, my point is that the same guy that's the chief technical officer for Ripple, it used to be, that built this whole thing, literally is holding the distributed computer system way back in 1989. So this guy is not a dummy, okay? They can hate Ripple, love Ripple, think whatever they want. Like, this is not a joke. David Schwartz is literally one of the creators of Bitcoin. And we have the patent to prove that literally he's involved in the original creation of this technology. So, it's just to say that the XRP ledger is extremely advanced. And nobody's
in his going away,
it's not going away. Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean. In his going away tweet, he actually says that he was in the NSA. So if you guys want a confirmation of that, he is in his own words on his Twitter.
Right on the
he also
website.
Yes, he even has on his own website.
On his biography, but he says that.
Yeah, he mentions that.
Exactly what he did.
Too.
He says Ripple. He worked for the NSA for something. He's. My opinion, listen, he was not creating mouses and keyboards for the NSA. Okay?
Right.
He's not trying to figure out how to create a battery, or he's not working on toasters. Okay, So, anyways, sorry for the rant again. There's so much to talk about when it comes to Ripple. There's so much misinformation and different tactics they use to scare us. There's a lot of lack of information. So there is nobody replacing that XRP ledger, because again, the XRP ledger, the decentralized exchange on the ledger, then they have the order books as well, built-in decentralized exchange, the order books, the AMM that are very advanced, multi-hop to try to find the liquidity. It can hop and find that liquidity. It's so advanced.
Listen, real quick. So at the beginning of your Zebek outline, and you were asking some question about Swift, and because there's a lot of FUD, right? And let's face it, it's a lot of the Chainlink community. And God, if some of you guys are in the Jasmine or Quant and stuff like that, you get tired of hearing this whole thing of Chainlink. Nothing wrong with Chainlink. It's all complementary. So look at this. We always cite Smoke because he makes it easy, but I want to share this because it's going to complement what you just asked earlier, and also what Jesse was mentioning. So. On this, look what it says here. How Swift GPI taps into RippleNet and XRP through Ripple partners using HTTPS and APIs without a direct Swift to Ripple relationship. As we take it to the next screen, as we blow this up a little bit more, actually, if you don't mind, Rob, putting on full screen just to help people. We see here the Swift GPI, right, has real-time payment message sent to receiving bank via standard Swift MT type messaging. On top of that, we see here RippleNet receives same MT type. Well, it's no longer MT, everybody. It's MX. MX by definition is ISO 222. Swift introduced ISO 222 back in 2004. And on top of that, Ripple was birthed out of 2004. Also, Jesse, we just covered this other day about the Swift GPI, and as we see here, Look at all these direct connections to it all. And look where it points to Bank B, for example, from the Switch GPI, the orchestration to RippleNet, the exchange. Does it mention literally XRP? It does. Look at the Switch GPI on the bottom left, to Bank A, over to RippleNet. And as you see here, it says MT103, but that it now becomes MX. MX, again, by definition, is ISO 222. And notice how it says Temenos. Back to you, Rue. Yes, you. How many times did we cover Temenos and basically FedNow?
Yeah, and
right?
to go into that with Metallicus and things like that, and Cybos, a lot of people were talking about T1 and T2. If that's Temenos.
Yes. So, guys, this is actual documentation. Go ahead,
Max. I want to say something real quick. I'm so sorry. So stay right there.
Stay
there at the bottom on the right-hand side, way at the bottom. You see RippleNet, and it's talking about this HTTPS API that it said that Swift would send to. Okay, and it's giving you a different list of APIs. Remember earlier I was telling you how Swift can connect via Ripple using multiple different third parties. Mm-hmm. These are your list of examples right here, okay? It says Temenos, SAP, SAP, CGI, DNH, TAS. These are all third-party applications that literally connect into RippleNet that automatically, all of their networks automatically settle with XRP. So that's what was my point earlier when I was saying, like, they admitted that they were connecting 2-3 banks per week just individually. This wasn't even counting the fact that the whole Temenos network, SAP network, DNH, TAS, so on and so forth, are literally connecting all of their networks into RippleNet as well. But let's go back up a tiny bit. Let's go back to the left-hand side in the few paragraphs on the left-hand side. You can just scroll up a bit, okay? We're going to read that again because I want to point out something here. So it says Swift GPI real-time payment message sent to receive bank via standard Swift MT type messaging. And underneath it says specifically RippleNet receives that same MT type that is coming from Swift, right? So RippleNet receives that message, the same message, MT type messaging via API, bridge setup by SAP, Temenos, etc. This happens independent of Swift. So they're literally saying that Swift is tapping into RippleNet's power for instant settlement, real-time settlement layer. Because on the right-hand side, you see the real-time settlement layer being RippleNet, XRP, and so on, right? So it's telling you right here, it's giving you examples of 5-6 different third-party apps that Swift can connect to, automatically settle with XRP. They're not talking about settling with Ethereum or any other network here. So this document that Smoke has here is proof exactly what I was explaining earlier. There is no so again, guys, Swift is using XRP, and I have 2 videos on my website about Swift. The Swift and XRP part 1, part 2, where I do a deep dive and I show all the proof that Swift uses XRP for settlement. It's just all theater. It's just for people to fumble their bags.
Yep.
There is no other internet value. There's no other network that can provide the global liquidity to go from any asset to any asset. And I want to add one thing, guys. The more we tokenize everything, the more we're creating siloed islands. So the more we tokenize everything, different types of tokenized real estate, stocks, bonds, derivatives, everything, the more that you need a bridge asset. Because you're creating more and more and more and more silos, the more demand there is for a bridge asset to bridge all of these different silos. Keep that in mind. They're not going to tell you that.
A couple other questions for you, Jesse. I know the thing that people like to bring up a lot is, well, Ripple dumps every month. And to me, I just think it's like, the 50 billion that they have is just to prevent a 51% attack, right? Or is there more to it than that? Because if you look at it, that's 50 billion, and then we know SBI through the Rothschilds have like 8.7%. So right there, bam, you prevented a 51% attack on the network.
Yeah, I just want to say something real quick there before you jump in, Jess. We covered
You're allowed to talk to, Rob.
We're allowed. Yeah, go ahead.
We do a morning market overview video on the Patreon every single day, right? As soon as I wake up, that's what we do. We go over the market, see what's going on, and we go over the news in the morning and stuff. And I think it was this morning, and this happens every couple of months. These fudsters, these hit pieces on Ripple, The headline was something to the effect of Ripple unlocks 1 billion tokens this morning. It happens every couple months, right? But these hit pieces, and you always got to try to set it straight and say, like, but they word it in a way that this is something that's never happened before. This is brand new information, and they're going to dump on you, right? It's a target piece. It's a hit piece on Ripple every once in a while. I think this morning we covered that.
Yeah, I believe you. No, listen, I've been saying from the beginning, and I don't say it often, I sometimes forget to say it, but like, I don't think Ripple's our friend, right? Like, I don't think originally Ripple was really for us. They needed us for liquidity. In order to get unlimited use cases and they get that liquidity, you need to get the retailers involved. But if they could have done it without us, they would have done it. Now, don't think that I'm saying they're going to repossess, they're going to confiscate our XRP. That's not what I'm saying, okay, guys? But if they could have done it without us, they certainly would have done it without us. So, in my opinion, right, it is for the central bankers. They are solving the liquidity crisis for the central banks. And now with that lawsuit, it kind of looks like they were fighting for crypto. But I'm in it. I'm in it for the investment, not because I think that Ripple's our best friend and they're only working for us. I mean, this is an investment play on my end, right? On my side. It is the internet value. And if the XRP token is capturing the value of an internet, the potential is absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, and see, I was thinking like, okay, well, if Ripple, because right, I think if people found out about this, right, and they were able to get a controlling interest, right, enough people were able to get enough tokens, they could mess up Ripple's plan. So Ripple just took that off the table. All right, so we'll just get 50 billion and we'll put it in escrow. So if that's the case, and we know the importance of Stronghold, right, to Ripple, then Stronghold went and said, okay, well, let's take 60 billion of our tokens and put it in escrow. So no one can get a controlling interest of that. So then
that's one of the things, but we also have to ask ourselves, like, who that escrow is for, because Miguel Villas was interviewed, and I think he slipped, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's why he's not with Ripple anymore. That's just me throwing out there. It's probably not the case, but he was asked by, I think it's Thinking Crypto, so shout out to Thinking Crypto. I think it was that guy that asked him. He says, what do you guys plan to do with the escrow? And he says, well, I don't know if we'll ever sell it all. I mean, maybe we could become like a lender of last resort. I know that kind of would look weird for a private company to be a lender of last resort. So maybe we could give that off to another institution and they would become a lender of last resort. My friend, listen carefully. The only lender of last resort on planet Earth is the IMF. And for him to make a statement like that and not be wiped off the face of the earth, for a private company to be able to say we're going to become a lender of last resort. What's his name? The guy in the continent of Africa that tried to create, I forget his name.
Gaddafi.
Gaddafi was not even doing 1% of what Ripple is doing, and they took him out. You cannot. Yep. My point is, you cannot do what Ripple is doing without being back at the highest level. It doesn't happen. You cannot have a private company saying we're going to be the new global reserve asset and we're going to provide liquidity for the layer. Like, we're going to replace the US dollar almost. You can't say something like that and still be functioning a week later, unless this is all planned at the very, very high level.
Jesse, it's funny you mentioned this. So just to give you guys a little preview, Jesse and I did a collaboration about this. Recently, Christine Lagarde went to Finland, and she went to the central bank there. And you may think, well, that's not a big deal. It's just Finland. Who cares? It was the participants that showed up to a 4.5 hour live stream conference. A lot of people don't realize it, but there's a lot of YouTube channels that are specifically just available for the institutions, like they're institutional YouTubes. I follow those left and right. All right. It's not a flex, but in reality, remember, Jesse, I said I scoured through that and we did a collaboration about it. And literally the gentleman that was from, I don't know if it was the BIS or some other one. Anyway, he mentioned specifically what Jesse was talking about of lender of last resort. And then another thing was brought up about the liquidity crisis and who was staying at the forefront of that. So we have a little preview of that. I think that's either going to come out tomorrow or the day after. But we address a lot of these things. Swift, obviously what Jesse was just mentioning. But yeah, I would agree that I think Miguel Diaz, that's more than a coincidence. Why come out with that and all of a sudden you're gone?
Oh, he was twisting and turning in his chair when he was answering that. But tomorrow or the day after, I have a video coming out about a new video. Max showed a video on Twitter a few weeks ago, and I went and looked into it. And the IMF released a video 2 weeks ago with a few central bankers, and they're talking about their integrated policy framework, IPF. Integrated policy framework for cross-border payments, liquidity, all this good stuff, exchange rate issues, all that stuff. And so I did a deep dive just today. It'll come out in a few days from now, showing literally that the integrated policy. I asked the AI, I said, tell me how Ripple and RippleNet and so on and so forth, the interledger protocol, so on, is identical to the interledger policy framework, integrated policy framework of the IMF, or tell me how the integrated policy framework would benefit from Ripple. And the AI literally gave me like 3 pages of how they're technically identical. Now, one is a framework and one is a technology. Ripple's a technology and one is a framework policy. So they're not the same. But to implement it, unbelievable. If you want to implement that policy framework, Ripple does every single thing that you need to implement that and make, like, come on. And I did another deep dive in 2016 documents and videos came out, about how there's this paper where the IMF and central bankers are discussing the issue about corresponding bankings, how a lot of banks are stopping their corresponding banking offers. Like they're no longer going to do corresponding banking. So how do we address it? So in this like 50-page document, they list out all of the issues that they have to fix. And this is literally an action call, an action task. Like they say, okay, this is what we need to fix. And this is what we need to do to fix the whole corresponding, the fact that banks don't want to do cross-border anymore. How do we fix this? And literally plug that document PDF in the AI and say, tell me how Ripple fixes this. Ripple does every single thing that they literally said they needed to fix and they were going head on to fix. But anyways, I could go on and on and on, guys. Like Ripple is, they're fixing all the issues that the central banks and the IMF have.
It's very interesting, like how you say, Ripple is asset to asset instead of cross border. Like that's exactly how Tammy Camp like years ago described Stronghold, and she was speaking at a church. I think Mind Crypto posted this, and she was saying that okay, we're going to be in Stellar's WorldWire, and basically what we are is you can put any asset in, and you can get a US dollar out. USD out through Stronghold USD. And if you look, they're everywhere that Ripple is majority wise. Like Stronghold Japan, they just created that and they're there with SBI. Ripple's there with SBI. And then they just created Stronghold Korea and Ripple's like really high, really tight in Korea with Upbit and places like that. So I'm wondering, and then they made the escrow move. So I'm really wondering what they're going to use Stronghold for.
Well, the escrow, remember, like when the lawsuit was happening, this bogus lawsuit, there were 1,700 NDAs. Under lawsuit, there were some documents released that Ripple had 1,700 NDAs and kind of partnership or agreements under NDA. If we look at R3 alone was $5 billion. So, I mean, this escrow, again, we don't not know who exactly how it's divided and who's getting what. But I think a lot of that escrow is used to incentivize partners because the deal between R3 and Ripple was like, hey, bring, you do this and this and this, and you'll get 5 billion XRP at less than a penny each, less than 1 cent each. Okay. And then there was a lawsuit, they settled. And then 2 weeks after they settled the lawsuit, that's when the R3 released the Corda settler that uses exclusively the XRP ledger for settlement. A lot of people think it uses XDC. Again, XDC is not for cross-border. XDC is a bit different. It's not to provide liquidity from any type of asset to any type of asset. It's more to tokenize everything that has to do with global trade. And I do a few deep dives about that as well. But that's just one partnership. That was just one NDA. Now they have 1,700 of them. So I don't know like what that escrow, right? Like they maybe 20-30% of the escrow is just going to companies like SAP and CLS and whatever, Accenture and all of these guys, right? To bring so it's massive, but I don't know how that escrow is divided up. Some of it's definitely for the IMF and the central bankers, but again, if you look at who owns R3, it's like 15 or 20 each of the biggest banks in the world. They own R3, including SBI. So technically, by R3 receiving $5 billion originally, but the settlement was for $1 billion, is what we're told. Again, who owns R3? It's the banks. So the banks are holding, they're indirectly getting 1 billion XRP because R3 is owned by the banks. So yeah, so I'll cut myself off there because I just rant and rant and rant. So, you know, I think I've been researching for like over 8 years now, and it's all coming out now because now that I can finally talk to people, it's like vomiting.
It's a wealth of knowledge, brother, and it's appreciated.
Yeah, thank you, man. But yeah, I just get so passionate and I just talk. So
I want to respect everybody's time. Are you guys wanting to wrap it up, or do you want that last connector part for the quant?
Yeah, I do have to go put my son to bed. So.
Okay, we'll do it for some other time then.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of help for the wife right now for obvious reasons, right? So,
No worries.
super dad right now. So,
no worries, Rob. We understand, my friend.
Yeah. Good job.
So yeah, next Thursday, guys. Same bad time, same bad channel.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Perfect. Glad to introduce Jesse. We're at Apex Crypto Consulting, NFA, and Rue and Rob. As always, it's been a pleasure being with you guys. Check out some of our collaborations. Check out obviously, if you're watching from my platform, check out our brothers in the space, Crypto Future 99, Rue Max, Rue Black, where we're at Black Rue. Obviously, check out myself if you're watching from their platforms. Like we followed over at Maximus Crypto 2690, and follow Jesse or Apex Crypto Consulting NFA. Or if you want the cheat code, just type in either Jesse Quant, and that will come up, or Jesse XRP, or Jesse Apex XRP, and it comes up. So thank you so much, you guys. I see some real familiar people in the chat. Thank you, Dave, for joining us. He says boil it, mash it, stick in the stew.
Copyright.
Yeah, there you go. But Rich, always great to see you. A lot of you OGs in the space. If I didn't mention some of you guys from earlier, thanks so much. And most of all, Rob, for hosting. We really appreciate it, brother.
Always, my guy. Always.
Thank you so much, A-Rob. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for letting me rant like that.
Welcome to the family.
Love the rants. Love the rants.
Oh my goodness, so passionate. Oh my goodness, I gotta take deep breaths.
You've now set the bar, so we expect the same thing every week, man.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
All right, guys, take care. Patreon. I will see you guys later. God bless, guys.
God bless. Thanks so much.
Peace.